Do you know what your favorite nib size is?
Hello fountain pen enthusiasts, this is SarahBeth with Pen Chalet, and today I'm here to talk to you about nib sizes. And we are going to discover the perfect nib size for you. We'll look at an extra fine, a medium, a broad, and a stub. So let's take a look at how the different nib sizes can affect your writing, from an extra fine nib all the way to a stub nib. I pulled 5 Twsbis out of my collection so that we can compare the different nib sizes.
Minimize any variations between the writing samples that are due to things other than the nib. I'm going to go ahead and use the same paper and the same ink for all of the different nib sizes. And I have a darkware notebook here, and then I'm using some Nahvalur Orchid Flower. And I will ink up all the different Twsbi pens here using a Twsbi Vac700r IRIS fountain pen. That's a vacuum filler with a medium nib. And the medium nib is the most common nib size choice. And a Twsbi is a great starter fountain pen as well. If you are completely new to fountain pens, it's not a bad idea to start with a Twsbi. There's several other brands and options that are also good ideas, but the Twsbi is a solid choice. And there's several different models you can choose from under the Twsbi brand. This is a D. Charles pen wipe. I like to keep it around when I'm inking my pens so I can keep things a little bit cleaner. This is another Twsbi Diamond AL in Iceberg Blue, and that's our fine nib. This next one is a mini. I have the Diamond Mini AL in Grape, and it's fitted with a Stub 1.1 nib. And these last 2 pens were both piston fillers. Next, I have one of our newest releases. It's the Twsbi Vac700r in Kyanite. It was a summer 2024 release, and that's another vacuum filler. And that's going to be our extra fine nib sample. I also have a Twsbi Eco in Glow Purple. The Eco is one of their most popular and affordable options. Okay, let's wrap it up, clean up our ink here, and set it aside so I don't knock it over. And then we will get into our Wear and Gel notebook and start some writing samples for you. I inked the pens out of order, but I'm gonna do the writing samples in order. This is the extra fine, so that was a good look at the nib. And then this is just a quick writing sample for you. I'll do the name of the nib size, and then I'll do some X's and some hearts, and then I'll fill in the hearts because you can see when you're filling in things like that, how much quicker the wider nibs fill things in. Now we'll move up to the fine nib. And again, this is the Twsbi Diamond AL in Iceberg Blue. And when you jump from nib to nib, from like the extra fine to the fine, you're gonna see a slight increase in the line width that goes down on the paper. Next we have our medium nib. This is the Twsbi Vac700r IRIS. And this was a limited edition release that was actually sold out, but I just checked before I made this video. We have one more, so if you're really in love with this pen, you can hurry over and get it. And that's the medium nib. It gives you a slight jump up again in line width. And then we'll go for the broad. This is the Twsbi Eco. And the broader the nib, the more ink the pen is putting out. This one is the Stub 1.1. And this one you could see in that close-up that it has a different shape of nib. The tip is squared off instead of rounded. And in addition to just giving you more ink, this one also gives you variations in the line width. We'll take a closer look at that here in a second. And here's all the nibs beside the writing samples from the extra fine down through the stub nib. And you can see up close that stub nib is that first one. You can see how the tip of the nib is just different from the others, and then you can jump back all the way to that medium fine and extra fine. Most of the brands label their nibs on the nib, and you can see them here. Sometimes they're tightly tucked into the section, and you'll think it's not there, but sometimes it's just a little bit buried under the section of the pen. All 5 of these nibs are stainless steel, so there are slight variations that can occur when you get nibs that are different materials, but for this first look at just the common sizes of nibs, I went with all stainless steel, all the same brand, so that you could see the differences. And now I'm going to show you how the stub nib gives you that different line variation. In comparison to these others, you can see that the stub nib gives you a wider downstroke, depending on how you hold the pen, but that's how I hold the pen. The extra fine nib is preferred by people who write really small and people who do a lot of detail work, artists. The fine for the same reason, but with a little bit more ink coming down. And then you can jump up to the medium. And again, the medium is a common choice, probably because it's very versatile. Because the extra fine, the fine, I don't recommend putting any specialty inks in those. If you have anything with shimmers or glistening inks, I wouldn't recommend putting those in an extra fine or a fine, but some people will go for it with a medium. I prefer to wait until I have a broad in my hand or a nib size larger than a broad. Broad nibs are just juicier. They give you a lot more ink than, especially in comparison to that extra fine. My pen of choice actually is the broad. I use it for a lot of doodling and big writing for drama. But if you really want to have some drama, you can jump from that broad up to the stub, and we'll take a look at that here in a second. But you can see with the broad nib that it's much easier if you're going to be putting a lot of ink down in various methods, like I'm coloring in spaces here. It's helpful to have the broad nib. You could do that with a fine or extra fine, but you'd have to be careful not to start digging into your paper, and it's just a lot easier to do it with a wider nib. And then here's a look at the stub nib. It's a little bit of drama. You can just add some drama easily without a lot of effort on your part, simply because the shape of the nib gives you different line widths depending on which direction you're pulling the pen. So we have a lot of artists and lettering experts who have a lot of fun with the stub nibs. Okay, and that's an overall general look at the common nib sizes. There are a lot of specialty nibs available, and more seem to be available each year, so that's always a lot of fun. Check back for more fountain pen how-to videos, and follow us on your favorite social media channel at Pen Chalet, and shop at penchalet.com.